Hey, and welcome. I'm glad to have you with me on this special edition of our broadcast, and excited because I know that I'm going to be able to introduce you to a very special person, a new friend, but someone who I'm convinced is going to become a very dear friend. And that's Amit Grinfeld, who's going to be our guide in Israel on the trip that we're taking there in November the 5th through the 14th. But we are going to be talking today about the reality of the situation on the ground in Israel, what's transpired there, and just to have a conversation. So I'm excited to introduce Amit to you. Just to tell you a little bit about him, he's the founder and leader of We Walk Together, which is a Zionist organization dedicated to advocacy and education across the United States. He's a distinguished speaker. He's been invited to lecture nationwide, offers profound insights on topics of historical, geopolitical, and cultural significance. I love this about Amit, that he was born and raised in a rural agricultural village in Israel, and Amit maintains a deep connection to the land, continuing his family's tradition of producing premium olive oil in the Judean lowlands. His dedication to service extends beyond his civilian pursuits, though, and especially important to our conversation today. He's a reserve lieutenant colonel in the Israeli Defense Forces, known as the IDF, and brings with him extensive military experience and leadership. He holds two prestigious degrees, one a bachelor's in history and international relations from Hebrew University, and also a master's in public policy from Tel Aviv University. And beyond his professional achievements, he's also a devoted husband and father of four, balancing a fulfilling family life with his career. He's a seasoned tour guide, and we're blessed and honored to have him be ours in Israel. And he specializes in curating immersive experiences, both for Jewish and Christian audiences. He's really highly regarded for his ability to lead VIP delegations. This includes politicians, diplomats, influencers, offering them unparalleled insights into Israel's rich history. He's a prolific writer. He's authored numerous books, articles that reflect his deep knowledge and scholarly approach. I would end by saying this: his expertise and compelling presence have earned him invitations to appear on television and podcast, further amplifying his influence. He's got an unwavering dedication to what he does, which makes him much sought after. So I'm going to welcome to our broadcast today, Amit. So Amit, welcome. We're glad you're here. Excited to
Thank
have
you very much. Nice to see you. We still see each other only through the screen, but soon we're going to travel together in beautiful Israel this coming November.
It's true. Yeah, we were hoping to, I could come up and meet you when you were here in the United States not long ago doing a speaking tour, but our schedules just didn't align. But it's
Never say never. I'm coming in September.
come.
Gonna work on it.
Let us know. Yeah, we'll try. You owe me a bagel, at least.
I do owe you a bagel.
Okay. So Amit is what we're gonna do today is we're gonna start with letting Amit do a presentation that'll take a little bit of time, and he's gonna do that with some slides just to give us an overview, and then we're gonna have a conversation and ask some questions. So Amit, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you begin your presentation, and excited to do so. And so here is the
Okay.
presentation.
Yeah. Here we go. Here's our presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the next 25 minutes, give or take, I'll try to do a quick overview of the latest events in my stormy little country. And it is a little country, as you can see here on the map. Israel, marked here in the bluish color, is the only Jewish state on earth. And we just had a major war with this gigantic country called Iran, a country 2.5 times bigger than the state of Texas, a country that has 10 times more people than Israel has. And all those people are under the occupation of the Islamic Republic. This is an evil regime that took over Iran in 1979. And from that point onward, they see Israel as the little Satan and the United States of America as the great Satan. So according to their horrific ideology, they will do whatever they can to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. and tried to push out every American base and interest out of the Middle East and basically take over the whole area. Pastor, let's move to the next slide. Iran tried to do this for decades by basically advancing on two different ways. The first one was the nuclear program that everyone hears about all the time. Iran is not trying to build a nuclear bomb by using only one reactor. They're using a lot of smaller facilities, some of them heavily fortified, all over the huge land mass of Iran. And they tried to get a few nuclear bombs, knowing that if they will have the bomb, basically they will be untouchable, and perhaps even try to nuke Israel, tiny Israel, off the face of the earth. And that's why Israel eventually decided to strike. They were very close to it. You can see also the map on the right part of our slide here. Iran tried to take over the Middle East by using a lot of proxy armies, especially made by Shia Muslims, like the Shias in Iraq, the administration of al-Assad in Syria that fell recently, and the powerful Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen. They gave those horrific people billions of dollars, and they also had a small but powerful army of terror in Gaza called Hamas. Hamas are Sunni Muslims, and they're supposed to hate the Shia Muslims, but in order to destroy Israel, those two became very good friends. And let's move to the next slide. What happened eventually in this terrible day of October 7, 2023, Hamas, the Palestinian terror organization of Gaza, decided to attack Israel despite the Israeli much larger and more trained army. They hoped to take us by surprise, and they succeeded. And they hope that they will drag all the Iranian proxies and Iran itself into a war against Israel. And that plan failed, or at least partly failed. So Hamas did horrific things on October 7. I'm sure everyone who's watching it now knows a little bit about it. I'm actually writing a book about the war now, and I'm diving into horrible evidence and description of what those people did. However, if we look at the greater plan, Hamas eventually and inevitably lost almost every combat, pushed back into Gaza, and now they're barely holding 40% of the Gaza Strip. A small but very heavily fortified underground fortifications that they have, those tunnels. However, Hamas at this point, Pastor, let's move on to the next slide. Hamas is no longer a threat. If you will look at the left upper corner, you can see the destruction of Gaza, what was left of houses. You can see also the IDF soldiers clearing those terror tunnels one by one. It's a very, very hard and dangerous job. They built more tunnels, by the way, than the New York subway system, about 2.5 times bigger. You can see weapons that the Israeli army, IDF, Israel Defense Force, is seizing in Gaza all the time. Crazy amounts of weapons, and they still have a lot, even now. Much of the weapon comes from Iran, Russia, and a little bit from China and North Korea. Pretend you are surprised. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, in the north, Israel started suffering from clashes and attacks from Hezbollah. Hezbollah means the party of God. And this is the powerful Shia organization that basically kidnapped the state of Lebanon and used South Lebanon to attack the Israeli Galilee. Maybe you guys heard of the famous pager operation. Pastor Mike, I suggest we will send them some links later on. It was a very successful intelligence operation when now it is actually published that Hezbollah paid the Israeli Mossad, the Israeli secret agency, they paid them to buy, they did know it's the Mossad, of course, to buy those pagers. The pagers are an old technology, but actually they thought it's a very hard one to hack just because it's simple. Well, they all blew up when Israel, a year into the war, decided the time was ready, and Hezbollah basically lost most of its commanders. They lost their eyes, their fingers. Many of them were severely injured. And then you can see the lower right picture. This guy was Hassan Nasrallah, the legendary commander of Hezbollah, a symbol. Israel bombed his bunker with 84 bunker busting bombs just to make sure he's dead. And guess what? He's dead. He's probably in hell right now. Then Israel moved into Lebanon. And what I'm trying to say, we'll not dive into all the details, is that Hezbollah, despite the fact that it was a lot stronger than Hamas, was actually soundly defeated. And right now there is a struggle. Thank God for the American administration that is trying to force Lebanon to get rid of this cancer called Hezbollah and to take over their country again. I hope so. Third of Lebanon is Christian, and it used to be a wonderful country. Maybe we'll see. Let's move on. Soon enough, after it was clear that Hezbollah was defeated, their ally in Syria, al-Assad, the horrible tyrant, who was heavily leaning over Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah to control his people, was defeated. A coalition of rebels, many of them are Islamists themselves, took over al-Assad. He ran away to Russia, and Syria is no longer a major threat to Israel. You can see the picture over there of the old Russian jet fighter being destroyed inside Syria. What Israel did was actually a brilliant, what we call decapitation operation. The Israeli Air Force, in a matter of a few short days, as soon as Assad was gone, bombed the daylight out of the Syrian old air defenses, Air Force radar systems. And that's important to understand because we basically opened the skies of Syria on our way to Iran if we'll need. And indeed, we used that opportunity. We can move on now to the next slide. You see, we had also a lot of different Shia militias in Iraq. You can see how they salute like Nazis. They do share a lot of Nazi ideology. Those Shia militias got hundreds of millions of dollars from Iran over the years. And in the moment of truth, as soon as they realized that Israel and America are pounding the Iranians, guess what? They refused to take part of the war. And they basically betrayed their Iranian, I don't know how to call it, milking cow of money, if you want. So in the moment of truth, Iran basically stayed all alone except those Houthis in Yemen. Let's move on to the next slide. Those are the Houthis. I love the picture, Pastor Mike, of the guy over there holding the old gun. Look at him, very convincing. Although it's very tempting to mock those people, and sometimes I hear a lot of Israelis call them, just terrorists with flip-flops. Well, those terrorists in Yemen, and you can see the middle picture, are actually causing terrible damage to global shipping. In the last 2 days, they sunk 2 commercial ships. Okay, we did not finish the war against them. And if you will ask me, America, Britain, the West, Israel, and maybe the Arabs for a change, will have to do something to break down this terrorist organization. They do fire on Israel from time to time, ballistic missiles provided by Iran. But this is a topic for another conversation. Let's move on. This is the map of the war, basically. The war was conducted far away from Israel. Okay, apologies, my dear Americans. 1,500 kilometers means around 900 miles. This is the distance, and in a few places, the Israelis flew much further, 1,300 miles. Those boys and girls in the Israeli jets, those drone operators, the Mossad agents on the ground in Iran, basically enjoyed the fact that we had clear sky and the Israeli Air Force could fly to Iran and to put a devastating blow to their nuclear plan. Let's move on to the next slide. So I wrote in some, Pastor, I have no problem sharing it, recording it, posting it, so people can have more information. People, you can also contact me. We'll leave the details of our website. The IDF decided to attack Iran knowing that Iran will retaliate. Okay, it was because they were very close to the nuclear bomb, and because we realized that they are building more and more ballistic missiles capable of inflicting terrible damage to Israel, and they also moved many of their weapon systems deeper and deeper underground. So we decided that if we will not attack now, we will simply not be able to hit them in the future. So that was the time. Now let's move on. Iran, you need to understand, used a lot of drones and a lot of ballistic missiles on the poor Ukrainians. I'm talking about the Russian-Ukrainian war, when devastating people. You can see the men crying over there around the destruction. Those are pictures from Ukraine. The Russians paid them a lot of money for those drones and missiles, and Iran also used them as a training ground, a horrible training ground. So they were ready for us as well, in a way. Let's move on now to the next slide. What you see here, those are estimations. They had at least 2,000 missiles ready to hit Israel. Now it is okay to say, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Home Front Command. I was called and I was told to report in my unit actually an hour before the attack started, which means Israel figured out that the Israeli cities are going to be attacked. So they mobilized the full force of the Israeli Home Front Command. Those are mainly the soldiers with the famous yellow helmets, search and rescue, or those who work with civilians, like what I do. And we moved all the hospitals into emergency rooms. It actually saved a lot of people because the hospital called Soroka was hit. So what I'm trying to say is that Israel was preparing for a very, very catastrophic situation. We knew that the enemy will retaliate against civilians immediately after the attack, which partly happened. Let's move on to the next slide. The Israeli Air Force and Mossad did an amazing job in Iran, an historical job. Okay, people will write books about it in the future, of how the Iranian missiles were knocked out on the ground one by one. How those, I specifically put pictures of female pilots. We had a lot of those, because I hope that the leaders of Iran are watching this video, and while they're trying to kill women for not wearing hijabs, our women wearing helmets flew above their skies like they owned the place. The Iranians lost their radar systems, anti-aircraft missiles in a matter of minutes before the attack, the main wave of the attack even came. So despite the great distance, Israel managed to bring a first blow of 200 jet fighters, state-of-the-art American fighters, F-35s, F-15 long-range, F-16 long-range, and other secret capabilities, to a maximum effect. We don't have the time to deal with it right now, but watch videos about it, or call me, contact us. We'll give you some more information. Let's move on, Pastor Mike, to the next one. So what you see here are the results of special operations. We basically decapitated many of the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC commanders. The chief of staff of the Iranians was killed in his secret bunker. They knew exactly where that secret bunker is. The guy who took his place was killed 4 days later. What I'm trying to say is that the chain of command of Iran was heavily disrupted, preventing them from reacting immediately. And let's move on to the next slide. When they started reacting, Israel was ready, okay? This slide, for example, is talking about showing you what happened with the drones. Iran is a world master in drone warfare, as the Ukrainians, by the way, suffer from them by the hands of the Russians. So the Iranians indeed fired hundreds of those drones to Israel, but the Israeli defenses just blew them up and knocked them out of the skies. A very interesting weapon was used in large scale in this war, and actually even before that, laser. Yes, we're not talking about Star Wars. We're talking about real operational Israeli laser that basically fries a rocket or a drone in the air until the thing falls down. Okay, and the big advantage of those lasers is just the low cost. It costs about $3 to fire a laser beam made of electricity, rather than, you can see the picture below, using an Iron Dome missile that can hit a rocket. It's amazing, but it costs $56,000 every one. So it came into a great assistance. Now let's move on. But we did suffer from enemy fire, okay? And I can tell you that specifically from my own experience. You're going to see some pictures I took in record sites. Most of the Iranian heavy missiles, ballistic missiles, were blown up in the skies. Thank God for the American help. Thank God for the Israeli advanced systems. But at least 20 missiles actually hit Israeli cities. And when a missile like that hits with a payload of at least half a ton, the destruction and devastation is just horrific. Um, I must say at the same time that I saw miracles in Israel. I saw a building that was just completely destroyed in Israel, but in Tel Aviv, we can say that now, but it was empty. Some missiles blew up, and we were certain nobody was alive, and most people, or almost all people, were unharmed. I mean, open miracles, if you'll ask me. And it's not the first time that those miracles happened, okay? 500 yards to this direction from where I sit, a ballistic missile blew up, and nobody was hurt in the middle of my village, okay? Just crazy miracles. But that's a story for a different time. Let's move on, Pastor, to the next. Can you put, Pastor, the slides now so everyone will see them? Those are pictures I took just recently. The building was a synagogue, and it was just obliterated by a ballistic missile. It was not even a direct hit. The missile blew up about 180 yards from the synagogue, and that was enough. Thankfully, the people there listened to the home front command, and they were not there, so nobody was killed. You can see also cars that were actually at the other side of the building and still started burning because of the destruction and the shrapnels and pieces of burning objects flying all over. But the village, despite the damage, nobody was killed, and nobody was even severely injured. Thank God. Let's move on to the next one. Rehovot is very close to where I'm talking to you right now. You can see a selfie I did over there. They are already clearing out the ground over there. A direct hit in an old building. Nobody was killed. Everyone ran down to the old bomb shelter, and each and every one of the people were saved. Yes, all their belongings are gone. You know, the photo albums from the wedding, the personal objects, the clothes, the TV. But guys, the souls, the people are important. And thankfully, nobody was killed. The second picture just on the left is actually the Cancer Treatment and Research Center in Rehovot that was devastated, and a lot of important science work actually was lost. But once again, thankfully, nobody was killed. Let's move on. And the hardest experience I had in this war was a visit. It was not under my responsibility, but me and some of my colleagues went there to see. Bat Yam is a suburb of Tel Aviv. This is the result of a direct hit. I can describe for hours the things I've seen there. People were killed over there, including a few young kids. But once again, I mean, the fact that about 200 people were not killed there is just unbelievable. But you can see the buildings just exploded, basically, and this is mainly from the shock wave. You can see me standing, and behind me a huge wreckage pile This is what the tractors just pushed out of the street right next to where I was standing. So you get the idea, you get the potential of the Iranian missiles and what they can do. The Iranians were working on missiles bigger and faster, and they still do. Some of those missiles can already hit Vienna in Central Europe. The same Europeans that are calling openly to boycott Israel and try to, basically help the poor Palestinians, or whatever you want to call it, are now thanking Israel for at least pushing back the danger of Iranian missiles on the European Union. Now, Pastor, let's move on. The great American direct attack came toward the end of the war. What you see here is basically a satellite, or a picture of a mountain in a place called Furdu in Persian. And you can see the craters of those gigantic American bombs that hit that mountain, 12 of them. Every different media outlet suggests different results. CNN, that hates Trump, says very light damage happened. Those who are in favor of Trump says that the place was destroyed. I can promise you that at this point, even the Iranians are not sure yet how much damage was done there. Okay, we will have to wait and to see, but no doubt heavy damage was inflicted to this place. Let's move on. We needed the American support, by the way, especially for that one underground structure, Fordo. So what was left for Iran? Iran was isolated. Iran saw Israelis and Americans pounding their targets, basically uninterrupted. They managed to shoot down only 2 Israeli drones. Not a single airplane, thank God, was hit. So Iran is likely now to move into more oppression against their people. Indeed, they're hanging dozens and dozens of political prisoners now in Iran because they're afraid that the people will rise against them. They're going to use more and more violence and terror against their own people. Let's move on to the next slide. And they will probably going to continue promoting terror, cyber attacks. Do you see the man over there? A man in a dress waving the flag of Palestine? This is the result of misinformation. Probably you all heard of Queers for Palestine, right? Queer for Palestine. So Queers for Palestine is one of the greatest achievements of Iran and Qatar and Russia, completely misinforming people, okay? If you will walk as a man in a dress in the Middle East, in any place except Israel, you will be brutally killed. And I'm putting this picture here to tell everyone how dangerous the misinformation is. Okay, and there is more to talk, more options that Iran might turn to. Okay, from dirty bombs using the enriched uranium they do have now, through perhaps swarms of drones suddenly appearing from an innocent cargo ship attacking Israeli coastlines or American coastlines. We don't know, but everyone needs to understand this was a battle. This was not the war. The war was not decided yet. Okay, and Iran is not going to become Switzerland all of a sudden. Okay, they are still the same terrible people, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, as they call themselves. Pastor, let's move on. I believe we're almost at the end. If you will ask me, the best solution right now to put an end to the Gaza war, to put an end, or at least to put a halt on the Iranian plans, is if Trump and Bibi, or Benjamin Netanyahu, sorry, I'm an Israeli, so we call him Bibi, will finally be able to make peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and perhaps peace with Israel and Syria, maybe even peace with Israel and Lebanon. If you will ask me, Amit, and I'm not the head of any state, okay? I just represent my own thoughts here. A peace agreement between Israel and some moderate Arab states will be the ultimate victory for this time of war. And I hope and I pray that this is what we're going to see soon. Pastor, I believe this is also the end of my slides. I love finishing my slideshows in actually a call for peace, peace for the people of Jerusalem, peace for the people of the Middle East. And I think, sometimes, Pastor, oh, now I can see you. I think sometimes, it's not only enough to win a battle, you need to take it further. If you understand what I'm trying to say, you need to use it as leverage, I would say, and to try to have more peace. I pray for it. All Israelis are praying for it, even army officers like me. Okay, and also let me finish with that, and then we'll move to questions. The symbol of the Israeli armed forces is a sword with an olive branch around it. Okay, this tells you a lot. Okay, we are holding the sword, but we are reaching out also, the olive branch standing for peace from the Bible. And let's hope, that by November when we meet here, or by September when we meet for and I don't want a bagel, I want a burger. When we'll meet for a burger, then maybe we will talk about, a peace process that President Trump and Netanyahu and other leaders will promote.
Absolutely.
We'll see. But this is for me. I'm
Well,
all yours now.
let it be. What is the word shalom? From the very beginning, a child learns. It's about peace.
Yep.
I know from all of my years of experience in Israel and with my interactions, peace has always been the great desire of the Jewish people. They've never sought, to overtake other people's land, to establish, some outreach beyond what was given to them. And it's always amazing that they were willing to start with what was given to them by the United Nations, and then they got attacked. And when the smoke cleared, they had more, and then they were happy there. And then they get attacked again, and when the smoke clears, they have more. So each battle gave them greater land, but all they ever wanted was peace. And
Just peace.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I know that there's tragic suffering on the side of so many innocent civilians. Talk for just a minute about the difference between in the these radical Islamic lands, the difference between the leadership, for example, the leadership of Iran, the leadership of Gaza, and the Iranian people, and how that interplays. Take just a moment, talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So those are three different entities, I would say. The people of Iran, all 90 million of them, 90 million people. Of course, there are a few millions that support the regime and earns benefits from the regime. There are others who are somewhat neutral, but the majority of the people of Iran, they're the ancient Persian people, Azerian people, Kurds. It's a mishmash of different ethnicities. The majority of them don't want any of that. And here is a fact that I'm sure you know it, Pastor Mike, but the fastest growing church on earth is in Iran, of all different states. Growth ratio, last time I checked, 5% growth a year. That's a lot. And despite all the, or should I say, because of all the Islamic oppression. And maybe in a few, I don't know, months, years, who knows, we will see finally this horrific regime fall, and the people, the free people of Iran, take back their country. And maybe it will become much more of an open-minded country. Who knows? We'll see. I can tell you that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the regime of Iran is probably going to continue in the same pattern because this is what they are. And they cannot, those regimes cannot go back. They're like a shark. They can only go forward. If they stop, they drown, they die. And I don't think this regime will change all of a sudden and call for peace and coexistence with Israel and cooperation with America. If any, they will do the opposite.
I met with the former Empress of Iran in Georgetown in her home. Was with her for several hours with Mike Evans, my very dear friend, founder of the Friends of Zion Museum. And and she handed us a book, handed me a book, and she signed in the book to me, in the hopes that one day Iran will rise from its ashes, from the darkness.
I
Uh,
think so.
Fascinating stories, and we have a very dear, almost a daughter who is Iranian that we met in Wyoming, where she was on a visit there, and her family are still in Iran, in Tehran, but they are against the regime, and
Yeah,
their hearts are yearning for freedom. Yeah, you know,
they do.
in Gaza, there's the issue of the fact that in 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza entirely and
Yeah,
turned Gaza over to the Gazans. And that land, so unique, right there on the Mediterranean, what it could have become,
great climate and excellent strategic
talk
area.
about what really happened there.
Well, and it takes me to the second part of your question. The regime in Gaza for the last 20 or so years is Hamas, which means the Islamic Resistance Movement, its initials in Arabic. And Hamas basically was I believe even now is an authentic representative of most of the people in Gaza. Not all, but a decisive majority. Otherwise, I cannot explain why there were no, greater uprisings against them so far. Although there are some militias now that are actually helping Israel, not because they like Israel, but because they see Hamas as the greater of two evils. And this is a radical branch of a radical terror organization called the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood even they never tried to hide it too much, the 100-year plan to take over America, by the way. Um, yeah, I'm thinking about the name New York right now, but that's a different story. I don't know why I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But this organization, Hamas, is a local Palestinian, if you want to call them that way, branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Um, they don't really fight for a Palestinian statehood. Okay, they don't even call for Palestine as a state. They want to create some kind of a Muslim emirate or caliphate. So basically, it's a terror organization with very similar values to Al Qaeda or ISIS. And check October 7th as a great example of how they behave.
Well, it's
Second,
also interesting to me that you look at 2005, so 20 years ago, that Israel withdrew from Gaza, which means that for 20 years, there's been, once Hamas took over, a few years after that, all of the education of the children, all of the control of the media, everything came from Hamas. And when you look at the age of the people in Gaza, you realize that virtually, 80% of the population or more grew up under that indoctrination. They never
yes,
heard do anything else. So you have
anything.
just a population that has only one view. And it's also fascinating to me that, people, fault Israel for putting up a wall, but nobody talks about the fact that Egypt does not want the Gazans in. Jordan, the other Arab nations are
Yeah.
not making room for the Gazans. Why is that?
Well, if I might add, you just mentioned two Arab states. Egypt is fighting the Muslim Brotherhood for decades. And it's the same thing with Jordan. And the Muslim Brotherhood is basically illegal in those two countries, and it should be illegal in other countries as well. I'm not allowed to say which. But let's just say that many Western countries don't see this educational cancer, if you want, as a major threat. But the Egyptians, and the Muslim Brotherhood was created in Egypt, oh, they know better. They know better than anyone else.
Let me ask
No, they
you.
don't want. If I just want to say this, if we had in Israel a wall like Egypt has in their border with Gaza, October 7 would not happen. Okay, they have several lines of walls and all that, while Israel had only one fence, a large fence, but that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
something that the media in America just doesn't talk about. Let me ask you this, just kind of on a personal level. How is the heart of Israel? How are they coping with? I know how deeply each human life matters to them, and how is the heart of Israel? I know the grief must be very deep, the loss of so many sons and daughters. I
Yeah.
remember one person talking about not only that they hated the fact that their daughter or son could be put in harm's way, but they hated equally that they would have to put someone else in harm's way in order to defend their country, that they would have to experience
Yes.
killing. How is that the heart of Israel right now?
Yeah. In one word, tired.
Hmm.
Above all, yeah. There is a war fatigue. Can I give you some perspectives that even local media usually don't talk about? There are a lot of suicides.
Hmm.
There are a lot of families that now suffer from a divorce.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people that have PTSD. There
Hmm.
is a war fatigue in the whole society. We've been like that for 640 days, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly the day now. I lost the track. We still have 49 poor hostages stuck in Gaza inside tunnels, and we're trying to get them out. And Hamas is still fighting because they prepared for this war for years, and they have a lot of ammo and a lot of experience now, and they managed to kill 5 Israeli soldiers and injured 12
All that, yeah.
yesterday. So there
So,
are skirmishes all the time.
mhm.
Okay, Hamas have a lot of power even now, although it is just a fraction of what it used to be.
Yeah.
Um, to keep the violence in this level, I don't know how long we can do it. Victory will be achieved, if you will ask me, by, and I repeat my message from earlier, if Trump and Bibi will manage to end the war in Gaza with some kind of a deal. I don't know how, but they can, and then lead Israel into signing peace agreements. This is the way to defeat those people, like the
Mhm.
people of Hamas. Okay, because a major reason why they attacked was because they felt that we are getting closer to a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia. Um, I mean, with the Saudi resources and the resourceful Israelis,
Mhm.
we can push the whole Middle East forward, basically. And this is exactly what scares people like those, horrible radical Muslims. Um,
What can America be doing? What can the church in America be doing um, to to be a voice of encouragement, to be a help in practical terms, um, and even for us when we visit Israel? How can we make a difference besides just being tourists in the land? What can we do to be some source of you know hope and encouragement to the land?
okay. I just want everyone to know that Pastor Mike did not get a planted question here, because you just asked me what my organization is doing, and I'm thinking how I'm gonna put it here in the video. So there's a lot to do, actually. Yes, of course, being tourist in Israel is great, and vote for people who support Israel is super important, and we see the results, of course. But my organization is trying actually to reach out to the Christians and to give you guys tools of education, of how should I put it? We want through the Christians also to get to the broader crowd, because every Christian dude out there has a few friends and family and colleagues that are not Christians by, they're not practicing religion.
Mhm.
They're not Christians by values, I guess, but they will still meet the Christian friend, colleague, or family.
Mhm.
And you, my Christian friends, can be the bridge between this Jewish Zionist state and the greater part of America. And I think you can remind America also how wonderful state it is, and to be basically a bridge, and allow me to be a bit dramatic and say also some kind of a beacon, also a beacon of light for many people. This is why I'm coming to America all the time, and I'm moving between churches and synagogues, and I can get to people's houses even if they want me, no matter where. I was in Hawaii twice. Okay, most Israelis don't know where Hawaii is. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of work to do, and with the good Christian people, and there are a lot of you guys in America, we can actually talk through you to a large group of people that many of them refuse to listen right now. Okay, you see amazing phenomena in America that are a result of one, complete ignorance,
Hmm.
and the second, like people screaming from the river to the sea, and they don't know what river and what sea.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. And the other, and that's even more scary, is indoctrination from the greatest enemies of Israel in America. Okay, like people are messing up with your minds, and those people work for terrible administrations out there.
So important to educate. If
Very.
my father was a television journalist. He did the 6 and 11 o'clock news for over 35 years, back in the days when there were only 3 channels. And one of the things he said to me one time, he said, anybody who thinks that they're educated because they watched an hour news broadcast is fooling themselves. And it's so important to realize, if the only place you're getting information is from a talking head on a television who's going to do a 3-minute story, you don't really know what's going on, especially those systems that used to seek objectivity are impossible. Objectivity is impossible to find in those platforms anymore. Uh,
Very hard.
let me ask you this: what's your view of the present security situation in Israel right now? For example, for a group coming to Israel.
Safer than most American cities right now.
Yeah.
The war at the moment is all but completely over. And let's look at the news of the next few days. I smell ceasefire in the air. Then again, with the reality of nowadays, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think coming to Israel actually after such great victory, it was a nasty long war so far. It's not over yet, and it's not over before it's over.
Yeah.
But I believe that especially people coming, in the coming fall, like you guys, I don't think you're gonna, feel any threat at all.
Yeah.
And don't even talk about crime rate and all that. I checked the crime
Oh,
rate data from America. I was in LA, there were riots. I was in Detroit, there was shooting. And it's much safer here.
yeah.
That's for sure. So
So when you look at the dismantling of Hezbollah's first strike capabilities, you look at Iran's missile defenses and all of that gone now. You look at
God,
Gaza and Hamas essentially being dismantled, except for the ability of certain radicals to remain, active in doing harm to the soldiers who are in Gaza, but not outside of Gaza. It's probably, in some senses, safer than it's been even before the war, and
probably so. Yeah,
probably
probably
really
so.
remarkably so. I mean, it is miraculous. We lament every innocent person's death in every situation, but evil, it does exist and has to be countered. And I think that it's been a really remarkable thing, as is true really in Israel's history, of its capacity to be a David against a Goliath. And it's happened again in a remarkable historical way. So, you have any closing thoughts for us that before I close this out?
Well, spread the word about my little but growing organization. It's not only me. We are several dudes, and
Mhm.
trust me, they're all hilarious and funny and brilliant. And we now have a new powerful member. Her name is Lauren Hermrich. She's coming to Israel in 2 weeks, and she's going to spend 3 weeks with us learning. Just our first Christian ambassador in America.
Wonderful.
So yeah, we are growing. The people who are watching it, if you want any of us to be in your church, contact us. We'll come. I'm willing to come and speak to 5 people in, I don't know where, in an igloo in Alaska or whatever you guys call it. I don't care. This is the mission of my life right now. Yes, I'm also a tour guide,
Yeah.
but this is important for us.
And we'll put
With the
contact.
website, Pastor Mike, also a few people asked me if we need support. Oh yes, we need support. We have no income. Basically, we are all volunteers, so people can support us through the website. It's We Walk Together. I guess we can put the link later on. And beside that, of course, above all, believe in the values, of the old Bible. Believe in your culture, in the old culture as well. Tradition is not a bad thing by itself. It's how people interpret it sometimes. So I truly believe, literally, that through those mutual values, we can be great together, good friends, and maybe even to teach the world a lesson or two of, resilience and peace. We can get it. That's for sure. Here's my message.
That's wonderful. Amit, I'm so thankful to have our friendship beginning and deepening, and I'm looking forward to many years ahead of more fellowship. When you come in September, send me your itinerary. I'll see if there's a chance we can share that burger and bagel. And we're looking forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And shalom.
Shalom. And God bless to all of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of this special broadcast. And we appreciate you. All the best.